bad things. There's a lot of bad things that they wish and they wish and they wishing on me. What's up, my dude? So, MX versus ATV All Out versus the official Monster Energy Supercross game, right? So, right off the bat, let me just say I think it's awesome that we have two dirt bike games coming out at one time. That's quite the rare occasion. Usually it's like we'll get a motocross game every 6 months or something like that. So I think that it's really cool that there's actually competition now, because that's only going to help the games. You know, when you don't have any competition, it can create this sort of like they control the entire market so they can do whatever they want to do. But now that there's actually competition, now it's like that changes the whole game. You see what I'm saying? Now they actually have to be trying to improve on elements and do things, and they're not just the only game out there like that. So whenever you talk about comparing the two, are they even really comparable? I mean, it doesn't take a damn algebra teacher to calculate this up right here. So let's just do it real quick. We've got MX versus ATV All Out, which is a $50 game, and it's got Supercross tracks, motocross tracks, freestyle tracks, free ride tracks, and possibly even like a waypoint trail style track to it as well. And it's got dirt bikes, ATVs, UTVs, two-strokes, and all of that into one game. And on the other side, you've got the official $60 Monster Energy Supercross game. $60, okay? This is a full-price AAA game, and it has Supercross tracks. And that's it. That's it, dude. Supercross tracks. It's all you got. So when you look at it on paper, there's an obvious winner here. And I think it goes deeper than that. I think whenever it comes to these dirt bike games, there is sort of a trifecta that they can get with them. So let me just explain to you what I mean here. So like on your games that are more of a full package when it comes down to having all the different types of tracks, all that different stuff, that creates a effect where you never get bored of anything, because it's kind of like this. Let's just say you start on the Supercross tracks on MX versus ATV All Out, and you play that for a while. And then right about the time you start getting bored of that, then you go to the motocross tracks, and you play that for a while. And then right about the time you start getting bored of that, then you go to the trail tracks or the free ride tracks or the freestyle tracks. And then by the time you're getting bored of that, then the Supercross tracks are fun again. So then you go back to those, and then you start getting bored of that, then the motocross tracks are fun again. You see how it just goes round and round and round, and then you never really get bored of the game. So I think that is such an important part to motocross games, is having that trifecta of like Supercross, motocross most importantly, but then having like a third element in there, sort of maybe like a silly side element, maybe like a 50 track or freestyle course or trail track or enduro cross or whatever, and that just creates so much more longevity to the gameplay of the game. So let's look at some other aspects here, okay? A lot of people might think that the value of the official Monster Energy Supercross game is coming from it being like official, and it's got all the official riders, it's got all the official teams, all the official tracks. But I think a lot of those people forget that we've had that in the past. Like, it's not really anything new. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, I think it's cool to have all that in there. I'm just saying it's not like a super crazy, amazing new thing. It's really not. Like, we had the official teams back in MX versus ATV Unleashed or Untamed or one of those games. We had a lot of the different official teams, and you had Ricky Carmichael, Ryan Villapoto, James Stewart, all those in Reflex, and you had the Geico team bike for the Reflex DLC. You had a bunch of the official riders on Alive. You actually had James Stewart's home replica track on Alive. Like, we've had this sort of stuff before. Now, maybe we haven't technically had like the actual facial scanned stuff of the real life riders or whatnot, but you know, we've really already had this stuff. And especially when you start talking about the PC version of Reflex and MX Simulator, we've got every aspect of everything. We've got Eli Tomac's 2018 gear, we've got Ken Roxon's 2016 bike graphics, we've got all of the replica tracks from all the years dating way back to 2010. We've even got the 2018 Supercross replica tracks already for Reflex and MX Simulator. And this official Monster Energy Supercross game, it's got the 17 replica tracks on it. So, when you start adding that on top of everything else, when you start talking about how official it is and all the official things about it, it's not as new and crazy as you might get the perception of it as. I feel like a lot of people that play motocross games, they don't even realize that there's like this crazy never-ending content world of the PC version of Reflex and MX Simulator. You see what I'm saying? They're only on the console, so they don't realize how there's an unlimited amount of tracks on Reflex and MX Simulator, and those games just continue to come out with more stuff, replica tracks, just random custom tracks. You got hybrid tracks, Supercross, motocross, trail tracks, the whole 9 yards of it all. You see what I'm saying? And that is what makes these motocross games last, is having that user-created content. But what I've figured out is to ever get one of the games to that point, they have to have a solid core to them when it comes to the gameplay. You have to have a solid physics on the bike and skill gap to the game, or people are just never going to play it long enough for it to get that just mass of people playing the game for multiple years, and then people really get into the custom track making on it. That's why Reflex and MX Simulator has flourished for so long, is because so many people just continue to play it because the skill gap feels never ending for both of those games. And it's like there's just always another track. There's always another, unique kind of thing to ride on. There's always more bike graphics and rider graphics and all of that different stuff that it just keeps people coming back for basically ever. And it's just so hard to get a game to that point because a lot of these newer games, in their mind, they're just thinking like, well, we're going to release the game with these tracks and then come out with another game with more tracks on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then you got to learn a whole new game because it's not on the same game anymore. That's what's so incredible about the PC version of Reflex and MX Simulator. Like, if you've invested a lot of time into that game, it still means something because people are still playing it. There's still tracks for it. That's where your hardcore fan base lies, is in your actual PC user-created content of Reflex and MX Simulator. And it's going to be hard to beat those games, man. But it's the skill gap to it is what makes people come back. That's what makes everyone want to continue to play the game, because you start getting into racing and then you get better at that and then you beat this guy, and that's where the real addictive element of these motocross games comes from. It just is. It's the skill gap and the actual competition of it that keeps everybody coming back for more. And when they do that, then that's what creates your user-created content, because there's still a lot of people on that particular type of game. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy time for motocross gaming, man. We got two of them finally competing, and but when you look at it as far as just sheer content, I mean, I know which game I'm going to be playing more. MX versus ATV All Out, just because there's more tracks and more things to do in the game. That's just a simple thing right there. Like for me, if I'm only on Supercross, and especially only on in-stadium Supercross tracks, I mean, I'll play it for a little while, but it's eventually just going to get boring to me. You know what I mean? Like when you don't have the variation of content and track designs and stuff, it's just not... For me anyways, there's just not going to be enough there to want to play the game for that long. Now, if you're one of those kind of people where the officialness of everything means more to you than the actual tracks and the different kind of vehicles and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, the official Monster Energy Supercross game is definitely going to be more of your game. But for me, it's just, like I said before, if it had the AMA Supercross tracks and the AMA Motocross tracks in one game, then man, it would just change this whole situation. But and especially, it's one thing to have a game that only has outdoor motocross tracks, but to have a game that only has indoor Supercross tracks, that's where I feel like in-stadium Supercross tracks are way more repetitive in design than outdoor motocross tracks are. That's just my opinion on that. So I feel like when you're trying to like sort of carry a full title with only in-stadium Supercross tracks, that's going to be hella tough, dude. Because it's going to be hard for people to want to think, let me go back and play on that track that I've already played 10,000 times, because every track feels almost exactly the same. The only way that you can really get away with that sort of element is if you have like a skill gap of an MX simulator where the really, really hardcore fans just sit there and run 10 million laps on a Supercross track, and then they start racing on it, and then it goes from there. But like, just for an arcade game to only have Supercross tracks, woo, that's a risky move, man, for sure. So either way, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.